The moment the grid goes down, the clock starts ticking on your life expectancy, and the water in your pipes becomes a relic of a dead civilization. You are operating under the fatal assumption that the infrastructure of the old world was designed to save you, but that world is over and the margin of error is now zero. The government's regulation of water quality was never about individual survival. It was about crowd management. And now that the crowd has become a horde, those regulations are nothing more than a memory that will get you killed. You must strip away the comfort of the safe zone narrative and look at the physics of your situation with absolute cold objectivity. Water is no longer a utility. It is the primary kill mechanism in a post-collapse environment. The greatest threat isn't the dehydration that kills you in 3 days. It is the microscopic biological warfare waging in every stagnant puddle you are tempted to drink from. When you rely on the standard commercial filtration systems peddled to suburban preppers, you are marking yourself as a loot drop. You are signaling to the desperate elements of the crowd that you have resources worth taking, and without the operational capacity to defend them, you are merely a warehouse for the strong. But the more insidious enemy is internal. One sip of contaminated water introduces pathogens that trigger dysentery, forcing your body into immediate calorie bankruptcy. Survival is a brutal mathematical calculation of energy in versus energy out, and dysentery destroys that equation instantly. You expel fluids and nutrients faster than you can scavenge them, spiraling into a deficit that physics dictates you cannot recover from. The government hides the raw, industrial methods of purification because they fear the panic of the masses realizing that the brittle supply chain of filters and tablets will snap in the first week. You need protocols that rely on hard chemistry and physics, not on a supply chain that no longer exists. You must understand that your eyes are liars. In the old world, you were trained to associate clarity with purity, a psychological conditioning that will now lead to your extinction. The physics of contamination does not care about the visual spectrum of light. A stream running clear over rocks can carry a viral load sufficient to wipe out your entire group, while a muddy puddle might be biologically inert. This is where hard logic must supersede sensory perception. The microscopic reality is a war of dimensions. Most commercial filters you scramble to buy operate at a 0.1 or 0.2 micron level, designed to catch bacteria and protozoa like cryptosporidium. They are sieves, not walls. Viruses, such as hepatitis A and rotavirus, operate at 0.02 microns. To a virus, your expensive ceramic filter is an open door, and relying on it is a confident mistake that you cannot afford to make. You are betting your survival on a physical barrier that is mathematically incapable of stopping the threat. When you fail to account for the viral spectrum, you are not just risking sickness. You are inviting a tactical collapse. This brings us to the multiplier rule. In a survival scenario, an error does not add to your problems. It multiplies them. One member of your team contracting a waterborne pathogen does not result in one sick person. It results in a halted movement, the consumption of precious medical supplies, the noise, discipline broken by illness, and a catastrophic drain on group morale. The sick individual becomes a tactical anchor, dragging the collective down into calorie bankruptcy. You must treat water collection not as a chore, but as a hazardous material handling operation. If you cannot verify the sterility of the source through thermal or chemical laws, you must assume it is a bioweapon. The crowd will drink from the river because it looks clean, and the crowd will die. You will survive because you apply operational principles that acknowledge the invisible reality. We stop looking for clean water and start manufacturing sterile water. The margin of error is zero. The first operational failure of the average survivalist is the reliance on liquid bleach. You are hoarding a chemical ghost. Sodium hypochlorite in liquid form is thermodynamically unstable. It degrades into useless salt water within 6 months to a year. When the collapse stretches into its second winter, your stockpile of Clorox will be nothing more than a placebo, and drinking from it will be your final mistake. The government keeps the population on liquid bleach because it is dilute, safe for the lowest common denominator to handle, and ensures a dependency on the supply chain. You must bypass this consumer-grade safety net and secure the industrial precursor, calcium hypochlorite. This is not a household cleaner. It is the raw chemical logic of water purification. Sold as pool shock with a concentration of 65% to 73%, a single 1-pound bag of this granular powder possesses the theoretical capacity to purify up to 10,000 gallons of water. It does not degrade. It does not expire. It sits on your shelf as a dormant tactical asset until you deploy it. However, the application of calcium hypochlorite requires precision, not guesswork. You cannot simply dump the powder into your canteen. That is a chemical burn waiting to happen. You must adhere to the two-stage protocol. First, you manufacture a stock solution by dissolving 1 heaping teaspoon of granular high-test hypochlorite, HTH, into 2 gallons of water. This creates a potent chlorine solution that mirrors the strength of industrial bleach. Do not drink this. This is your weapon. Only then do you apply the multiplier rule. Introduce the stock solution into your raw water at a ratio of 1 part solution to 100 parts water, or roughly 1 pint of solution per 12 gallons of raw water. You let it sit. You wait for the chemistry to dismantle the biological threats. If you do not smell chlorine after 30 minutes, the organic load in the water is too high. You must repeat the dosage. This is how you turn a swimming pool chemical into a life support system for a community, effectively rendering the need for disposable filters obsolete. While chlorine conquers via brute force, Protocol 2 relies on visual confirmation. Potassium. Permanganate is the operational definition of a multi-role asset. In a world where weight is the enemy, carrying a substance that functions as a fire starter, a fungal antiseptic, and a water purifier is not a luxury. It is a necessity for the grey man who must move fast and light. This chemical appears as dark purple crystals, and unlike the invisible action of chlorine, it communicates with you. When you introduce a few crystals into a liter of water, the liquid changes color. This is your survival gauge. If the water turns a deep purple, you have created a potent antiseptic solution for cleaning wounds, toxic to drink, but vital for preventing infection in the field. To purify water for consumption, you must dilute the solution until the water turns a pale, vibrant pink. This is the pink protocol. You wait 30 minutes. If the water stays pink, the chemical has successfully oxidized the bacteria and viruses. The water is safe. If the water turns brown or yellow, the biological load was severe enough to neutralize the chemical. The brown color indicates failure. The enemy is still active. You must add more crystals until the pink hue persists. This visual feedback loop eliminates the dangerous assumption of safety. You do not hope the water is clean. The chemistry shows you it is clean. The government does not advertise this because potassium permanganate is a precursor material, easily restricted. But in the hands of a strategist, it is a method of verifying survival without needing a laboratory. These two chemical protocols, calcium hypochlorite and potassium permanganate, strip away the reliance on fragile mechanical filters and place the power of industrial purification directly into your hands. You are no longer filtering, you are chemically sterilizing the threat. When your chemical stockpiles run dry, and they will, you are left with the laws of thermodynamics. Physics does not negotiate, but it can be exploited. The third protocol strips water purification down to its molecular essence. Phase change. The government and standard survival manuals focus on filtration, which is merely trapping solids, but high-efficiency distillation focuses on extraction. You are not cleaning the water. You are abandoning the contaminants and harvesting the pure H2O molecule. This brings us to the solar still, a device that turns the kill mechanism of dehydration against the environment itself. The crowd sees a toxic slurry of mud, brackish swamp water, or even their own metabolic waste as a death sentence. You must see it as a raw resource. The solar still operates on the greenhouse principle. You dig a pit, place a catchment container in the center, and surround it with whatever moisture-bearing material you can scavenge: green vegetation, contaminated sludge, or in the most desperate scenarios, urine. You cover the pit with a transparent plastic sheet, sealing the edges with dirt to create a closed thermodynamic system. You place a small rock in the center of the plastic, directly over your container. As the sun beats down, the temperature inside the pit rises. Water molecules in the sludge or vegetation gain enough energy to break their bonds and turn into vapor. This is the critical separation point. Bacteria, viruses, salts, and heavy metals are too heavy to vaporize. They remain trapped in the earth. The vapor rises, hits the cooler plastic sheet, condenses back into liquid droplets, and runs down the slope created by the rock, dripping purely into your container. This is the only method that allows you to safely process urine. The old world taboo against drinking urine is biologically sound if you drink it raw. The salt and toxin concentration will accelerate your dehydration and destroy your kidneys. But a solar still distills the water out of the urine, leaving the urea and salts behind in the soil. You are using the sun to perform kidney dialysis in a hole in the ground. It is slow, it yields limited volume, but it produces chemically pure water from lethal sources. While distillation relies on phase change, Protocol 4 exploits the radiation spectrum. Solar disinfection, or SODIS, is often dismissed as a third-world desperation tactic because it is misunderstood. The banned knowledge here isn't the method itself, but the optimization that makes it viable for a tactical operator. The standard advice, leave a bottle in the sun, is a half measure that leaves you vulnerable to variables like cloud cover and time. You must apply the multiplier rule to solar radiation. The mechanism at work is ultraviolet A, UVA radiation, which penetrates the cell walls of pathogens and destroys their DNA, rendering them unable to replicate. To make this operational, you must use clear PET plastic bottles. Glass blocks the necessary UV wavelengths, and polycarbonate is opaque to them. But the true upgrade is the reflective surface protocol. Placing a bottle on the ground allows UV to pass through once and be absorbed by the soil. Wasted energy. You must place your water vessels on a highly reflective surface. Corrugated metal, aluminum foil, or a mylar emergency blanket. This reflects the UV rays back through the bottle, attacking the pathogens from a second angle. This double pass effect significantly reduces the time required for sterilization and increases the lethality against the viral load. You are creating a solar reactor. Furthermore, you must ensure the water is clear before exposure. Turbidity acts as a shield for bacteria. Filter the solids first, then expose. Do not rely on heat alone. Hot water can still harbor life. You need the radiation. By amplifying the sun's output with reflective surfaces, you turn a passive wait time into an active sterilization process, securing your hydration without expending a single calorie of fuel. Biology is ruthless, but it is also predictable. When you are moving through the deep woods, separated from your chemical stockpiles and your solar rigs, you must exploit the evolutionary engineering of the environment itself. Protocol 5 utilizes xylem filtration, a method that leverages the internal plumbing of coniferous trees. The sapwood of a pine branch is designed by nature to transport water from roots to needles, while blocking air bubbles and embolisms. This same tissue structure acts as a sieve capable of filtering out 99% of bacteria like E. coli. This is not a folk remedy, it is cellular mechanics. You locate a fresh pine branch, peel away the bark to expose the sapwood, and insert it tightly into a tube or the neck of a hydration bladder. By applying pressure or relying on gravity, you force water through the wood's xylem tissue. The flow rate is slow, but the filtration is microscopic. The forest provides the filter. You provide the pressure. You are using the plant's immune system to protect your own. When you need to scale up from individual hydration to base camp infrastructure, you must construct the earth filter. This is Protocol 6, and it relies on the physics of adsorption. Commercial water filters boast about activated carbon, which is nothing more than marketing speak for processed charcoal. You can manufacture this essential operational asset in the field. You burn hardwood down to coals, not ash, and crush them into small granular chunks. This increases the surface area, creating a trap for chemical toxins and heavy metals. You do not just dump this into water, you build a stratification column. Using a hollow log or a cut plastic container, you layer your materials. Coarse gravel at the top to catch debris, sand in the middle to catch fine particles, and your crushed charcoal at the bottom to adsorb chemical impurities. This three-stage system clarifies the water and improves the taste, which is critical for morale, but do not mistake clarity for sterility. The earth filter is a preparatory stage. It removes the physical and chemical noise from the water so that your thermal or chemical sterilization methods can work without interference. If you skip this step and treat muddy water directly, the sediment shields the pathogens from your chemicals, creating a kill mechanism in your canteen. Finally, we must address the mathematical lie of Protocol 7, the bleach ratio. Government pamphlets and outdated survival manuals will tell you to add 8 drops of household bleach per gallon of water. This is a dangerous simplification that assumes you are using fresh bleach with a standard concentration, usually 5% to 6%, stored in perfect conditions. In a post-collapse scenario, your bleach is degrading every day, losing potency. Relying on a static number like 8 drops is a recipe for dysentery. You must switch to a variable operational protocol based on free available chlorine. You start with the standard dose, but the critical step is the verification, not the addition. After adding the bleach and waiting 30 minutes, you must smell the water. If there is no slight chlorine scent, the organic load in the water has consumed all the bleach, and there is no residual chemical left to kill the remaining pathogens. You are drinking live water. You must add another dose and wait again. You repeat this loop until a faint scent of chlorine persists. This proves that the demand of the water has been met and there is enough chemical lethality remaining to protect you. Stop counting drops and start measuring results. The math of survival is not static. It changes with the quality of your resources, and you must adapt, or you will reach calorie bankruptcy before you realize your mistake. Knowledge without execution is just trivia for a corpse. You now possess the chemistry and physics to manufacture survival, but the act of gathering the raw resource is where most will fail. In every conflict zone in history, the water source is the primary ambush point. When you approach a river or a lake, you are entering a kill box. You must never approach the water directly during daylight hours unless you have secured the perimeter. You operate at dawn or dusk, minimizing your silhouette. You do not carry bright blue commercial water jugs that scream "loot drop" to anyone watching through a scope. You are the grey man. You blend in. Paint your containers matte black or wrap them in burlap. Carry them inside a rucksack, not in your hands. If the horde sees you hauling 50 pounds of water, they know you have a base, and they will follow you home to take it. Your operational footprint must be invisible. Do not clear a wide path to the water. Leave the brush intact to break up your outline. When you collect water, you collect it fast. You do not filter at the source. You scoop, you seal, and you move. You process the water inside the wire behind your defenses, where you control the environment. The margin of error has been erased. The government guidelines were written for a world that no longer exists. You are now the master of your own biology. You have the tools to turn poison into life. But only if you have the discipline to apply them. The old world is over. Adapt to the new physics or become a statistic. Survive or die.